Chapter 4786. With your June family's background, there should be at least a few dozen people coming. This time there are only 10 people, which is already embarrassing enough. I'm not as wicked as you guys who like to be ruthless. I have to leave some opportunities for small fries, right? Di Xiaofeng's handsome face was filled with a sunny smile, but his words were full of sarcasm. Jun Lingshuan's face suddenly sank, and his eyes became gloomy and cold. If it wasn't for your Di family deliberately releasing false information, how could we be in this situation? Don't put all the blame on us, Gu Ruoyun said. Di Xiaofeng's lips curved into a mocking smile. We didn't say anything. Besides, with so many families, how could your family be the only one who fell for it? What's more, we didn't want to make a bet with you at that time. You came to us and arrogantly said that you must bet. We were just fulfilling your wish. Right? Beichen. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. Second young Master Jun emphasized that if I don't agree, then I'm not a man. Since you insist on betting, I naturally have no reason to refuse. But now that the bet is over, your reaction doesn't seem to be manly enough. Listening to Di Beichen's words, everyone seemed to recall the situation of the bet that day. Suddenly a smile appeared in their eyes. When they saw Di Beichen and Jun Zitao's bet, the Di family was very anxious. Now it seemed that Di Beichen was completely confident at that time, but on the surface he looked indignant. Just this acting alone was enough to make them admire him. Jun Zitao's face was extremely ugly. It was because of this matter that he had been blamed by the rest of the family for a long time. Now that Di Beichen suddenly mentioned it, he suddenly remembered how stupid he was that day. He was clearly sold by the other party, but he was still counting the money for the other party. It's just a win or loss, you don't need to be too proud. We'll see in the future. Jun Lingshuan knew that they had already suffered a loss in this matter. There was no benefit in continuing to talk about it, so he simply ended the topic. However, they would remember this matter in their hearts. Sooner or later they would make the other party pay. Just as they were talking, the Shao clan's team slowly arrived. Xiao Sou was still walking at the front of the group, and the way she was surrounded by so many people proved her position in the Shao family. Her youthful and beautiful face was shrouded in a confident luster, as if the events of the past few days had not affected her at all. However, when her gaze landed on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, a look of disgust and hatred flashed across her eyes. Ever since the last incident, she had been taught a harsh lesson by her father. Since she was young, she had never been reprimanded like this. Her father almost never said any harsh words to her, but this time he did not give her any face, which made her feel very wronged. Of course, she would never reveal this point. Previously, she had lost a round to Bailey Hongzhuang, but there was still plenty of time in the future. After going to the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm, she would think of a way to win a round. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced indifferently at Xiao Sou and did not pay much attention to her. She no longer had any interest in this defeated opponent. Very quickly, after the disciples of the various families who were going to participate in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm had arrived, the crowd gradually walked up to the deck of the giant flying device. Chapter 4787. Hearing this, Mo Yunjue's expression changed slightly. Don't we need to go in? According to his judgment, although this flying artifact was huge, its cultivation speed should not be slow. If they were to stand outside like this, the wind speed should be very shocking. Even if their cultivation was not weak, it would still be troublesome. Don't worry. Di Xiaofeng naturally understood what Mo Yunjue was worried about. Although the influence of the wind is very scary, this giant artifact has a protective array which weakens the power by a lot. However, it hasn't completely dissipated. Standing on top of it will also have a tempering effect and resist the influence of the wind. Who knows, we might even be able to comprehend the true essence of the wind here. I see. Mo Yunjue's deep black eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. I didn't think that there would be such a cultivation method. The many cultivation methods in the upper realm are really eye-opening. When Xiren's face was full of smiles. Although we haven't entered the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm yet, the current situation has already given us a lot of benefits. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen could not help but look at each other after noticing this scene. Fortunately, Xiren and the others had come directly, otherwise, they would have missed out on some experience. The people of the lower realm are really country bumpkins. They don't even know about this, how laughable. Jun Zitao looked at Xiren and the others who had not seen the world and could not help but mock them. These people should be Bailey Hongzhuang's friends. I didn't think that you would be so generous to give the quota to these people from the lower realm. Xiao Sou's gaze was full of contempt and the corner of her lips curled into a faint sneer. However, you thought that you were giving them a chance, but you didn't think that this could very well cause them to lose their lives. This place is where genius cultivators gather. If some shrimps go there, they'll only be sending themselves to their deaths. When Zyron and the others clearly did not think that their inquiry would cause such a reaction, and their faces instantly turned ugly. Most importantly, the other party's contempt and ridicule made them very unhappy. Eldest Miss Xiao, you don't have to worry about us. You're always worrying about this and that. You're such a busybody. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze was cold. No wonder you would ally yourself with the Jun family. Your temperaments are really compatible. I'm just reminding you out of goodwill. Xiao Sou's eyes were gloomy. Don't lose your life. It'll be too late for regrets. I already said that I don't need you to remind me. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. If you have the time, why don't you think about yourself? You have the title of the successor of the Saintess of Light, but you haven't really inherited it yet. You must be lacking something, right? Bailey Hongzhuang's clear and melodious voice was accompanied by a chuckle, but her eyes were cold. Xiao Shou liked to make trouble for her, and she was already used to it. However, now that Xiao Shou pointed the finger at their friend, they couldn't let it go. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the other cultivators present could not help but voice their opinions. Bailey Hongzhuang is right. Xiao Shou has been holding this title for a long time, but she hasn't really become the Saintess of Light yet. It's indeed a little strange. I've had my suspicions for a long time. There must be some problems. The position of the Saintess of Light has been vacant for a long time. The Holy Light Assembly must be hoping that someone will take over as soon as possible. Chapter 4788. The cultivators present were all geniuses from various clans. Although they had some misgivings about the Xiao family, they did not care too much about it. After all, Xiao Shou was not the Holy Maiden of Light yet. Her status was the same as theirs. Xiao Shou did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to suddenly bring up this issue. This was also the issue that she did not want everyone to bring up. She naturally wanted to become the Holy Maiden of Light, but there were still some problems with the purity of her light attribute. If she could have obtained the light vine previously, this problem might have been solved. However, all of this was ruined by Bailey Hongzhuang. However, Bailey Hongzhuang actually took the initiative to bring up this point. It was really hateful. Faced with everyone's suspicious gazes, Xiao Shou clenched her hands into fists. Her fingernails were deeply embedded in her palms. The hatred in her heart made her feel no pain at all. Just as Xiao Shou was about to speak, Di Beichen's voice rang out again. Miss Xiao, we are not familiar with each other, and we have no intention of talking to you much. I hope you can conduct yourself with dignity. Di Beichen's voice was cold. He did not expect Xiao Shou to be such an annoying existence. However, ever since the incident with the light vine, he felt that it was a waste of time to look at this woman. However, this woman always liked to take the initiative to find trouble with them. He was the cause of the incident, so he naturally had to express his stance. As soon as this was said, Xiao Shou's expression changed. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang's mockery, Di Beichen's words were more serious. When the other cultivators heard Di Beichen's words, they were secretly surprised. I heard that Di Beichen originally had an engagement with Xiao Shou, but he gave it up for Bailey Hongzhuang. Now it seems that Di Beichen really has no feelings for Xiao Shou. It's hard to imagine that Xiao Shou would actually be rejected. He usually has a lot of suitors. Actually, I also thought that Di Beichen must be crazy. But after I saw Bailey Hongzhuang, I understood that I wouldn't agree to such a peerless beauty either. Xiao Shou's face turned red with anger. She looked at Di Beichen angrily. She couldn't believe that Di Beichen could be so cold. Di Beichen, you think too highly of yourself. Miss Xiao doesn't like you at all. At this moment, a figure stood beside Xiao Shou and stared coldly at Di Beichen. Looking at the newcomer, Di Beichen looked indifferent. And who are you? I am Nangong Yuqing. Nangong Yuqing. He has been pursuing Xiao Shou all these years. He is the representative of her suitors. Di Xiaofeng reminded. Di Beichen's eyes showed a trace of understanding. Let's not talk about whether she likes me or not. At the very least, she doesn't like you. Ah. Nangong Yuqing wanted to stand up at this time to teach Di Beichen a lesson and win the favor of the beauty. He didn't expect to be directly choked by this sentence. After hearing this, everyone present was dumbfounded. This really made people speechless. I am telling the truth. Di Beichen spoke again. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I think so too. This was because Nangong Yuqing wasn't very good looking. Chapter 4789. Nangong Yuqing naturally understood why Di Beichen said this, and his expression became extremely ugly. It had been a long time since someone had dared to mention this to his face. He didn't expect Di Beichen to not give him any face at all. His eyes burned with anger. Di Xiaofeng noticed this and felt helpless. He had forgotten to remind Di Beichen of this. Although Nangong Yuqing isn't good-looking, his strength and talent are first class. Not only that, but he also holds grudges. In the past, there were people in his family who mocked him for being ugly, but after he rose to power, he taught them a lesson. Therefore, although everyone knows this, no one dares to mention it to his face. Di Xiaofeng said. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed. Although she knew that everyone present was a genius, she didn't expect Nangong Yuqing to be a genius among geniuses. Since Di Xiaofeng had reminded her, it could be seen that this guy's strength wasn't ordinary. Nangong Yuqing was probably one of the top geniuses here. Di Beichen, I heard that you will be the successor of the Di family in the future. Nangong Yuqing narrowed his eyes. Wouldn't it be interesting if I killed you? The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Everyone's eyes fell on Di Beichen and Nangong Yuqing. It seemed that a fight between the two was unavoidable. Nangong Yuqing's strength has recently made a breakthrough. I heard that he has already broken through to the nebula realm. This guy's cultivation speed is truly abnormal. Di Beichen definitely won't be his opponent. Of course. Di Beichen would be at a disadvantage if he were to compete with Nangong Yuqing. Xiao Soa felt very helpless when it came to Nangong Yuqing. This guy had been chasing her for a long time, but unfortunately, his looks weren't good enough. Otherwise, with his status as the young master of the Nangong family, it wouldn't be bad. Now that Nangong Yuqing and Di Beichen were fighting because of her, she was happy to watch. Di Beichen had embarrassed her time and time again. She no longer had the affection she had in the past. It was good to teach him a lesson. Anyway, I just returned to the Di family. Even if I die, it won't affect the Di family. Di Beichen said casually, but if you die, I think the Nangong family will be more interesting, right? Following Di Beichen's words, everyone present was stunned. There was only one thought in their minds, is Di Beichen crazy? Fuck, I didn't expect the second young master of the Di family to have such guts. He actually dares to challenge us directly? Nangong Yuqing chuckled after hearing this. You. What about me? Di Beichen chuckled. Don't think that you're so great just because you grew up in the Di family. I came from the lower realm. The tempering I went through isn't something that someone who grew up in an environment like yours can compare to. Nangong Yuqing's black eyes flashed with a biting cold light, and a murderous aura gradually emerged. The domineering aura of a powerhouse suddenly burst out. Di Beichen locked his eyes on Nangong Yuqing. His eyes were as sharp as knives, and just looking at them made people involuntarily feel a chill run down their spine. From the moment he became the young master of the Di family, almost everyone doubted him and looked down on him. However, he was also a proud son of heaven and had never lost to anyone. Since he was young, the tempering he endured was no less than anyone else. Chapter 4790. Although everyone knew that Di Beichen would be the head of the Di family in the future, almost none of the cultivators present put Di Beichen in their eyes. A cultivator from the lower realms simply couldn't compare with them in terms of cultivation. In their eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang was much stronger than Di Beichen. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation wasn't as good as theirs, Bailey Hongzhuang was a genius alchemist. Just from this point alone, Bailey Hongzhuang was already a powerful person. In contrast, Di Beichen had appeared in everyone's sight for a while, but he hadn't shown any performance, so everyone thought that he had an empty identity but didn't have the strength to match it. However, after seeing Di Beichen's aura, everyone's thoughts couldn't help but change. This kind of aura wasn't something that just anyone could have, at least most of the people present couldn't. The most important thing was that from Di Beichen's aura, they could feel an almost tangible killing intent. It was the kind of killing intent that only a person who had walked through a mountain of swords and a sea of blood could have. Not to mention the others, even Di Xiaofeng was shocked when he felt Di Beichen's aura at this moment. Nangong Yuqing looked at Di Beichen in surprise. He suddenly felt that he had underestimated this guy before. This kind of aura shocked him so much that he couldn't recover for a while. Xiao Sou and Jun Lingshuan's expressions were also constantly changing. At this moment, they realized that they had always overlooked Di Beichen's strength. In their eyes, Di Beichen's cultivation was completely incomparable to theirs. However, all of them overlooked one point. Di Beichen relied on his own strength to come to the upper realm, not the Di family's people who directly brought him up from the lower realm. This meant that Di Beichen was also a peak existence in the lower realms. Even if such a person's foundation was not as good as theirs, his experience must be extremely rich. Since you're so arrogant, then let me see how strong you are. Nangong Yuqing naturally wasn't someone who would be scared. Even if Di Beichen's momentum was astonishing, he wouldn't back down too much. After all, in terms of strength, he had never been afraid of anyone. As soon as his voice fell, Nangong Yuqing directly punched Di Beichen. The moment he punched out, everyone could clearly feel his strength. Nebula second order. Seeing this, Di Beichen didn't back down. Instead, he met the attack with a punch. Bang! When the two fists collided, Di Beichen retreated a few steps, while Nangong Yuqing stood still. Seeing this scene, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. That scared me. I thought that Di Beichen's strength was really on par with Nangong Yuqing's. Fortunately, it's not as scary as it seems. Di Beichen is younger than Nangong Yuqing. He came from the lower realm, but he was able to take a punch from Nangong Yuqing. It can be seen that his talent isn't any weaker than ours. That's true, but at least he's not Nangong Yuqing's opponent right now. Although Di Beichen retreated 2 steps, he looked at Nangong Yuqing with a devilish smile. He waved his hand without a care. Obviously, he wasn't injured from the previous exchange. However, Nangong Yuqing, who was in an advantageous position, frowned. His gaze gradually became cautious and complicated, but his face was full of impatience. I'm too lazy to bother with you. Chapter 4791. When everyone saw Nangong Yuqing suddenly leave, they were all at a loss. According to their understanding, Nangong Yuqing wasn't someone who would show mercy. It seems that Di Beichen is a bit strange. Jun Lingxuan's gaze fell on Di Beichen. He clearly saw the situation between the two and knew that Di Beichen's cultivation wasn't a match for Nangong Yuqing. What was strange was that when Di Beichen made his move, he didn't sense his cultivation. Not only that, he believed that if Nangong Yuqing really had the advantage, he wouldn't give up so easily. As such, there was only one explanation. Although Di Beichen seemed to be at a disadvantage, the one who was at a disadvantage was actually Nangong Yuqing. Only in this way could everything be explained. Even though he already understood everything in his heart, Jun Lingxuan still couldn't believe that Di Beichen could do this. I also think that Nangong Yuqing's performance is a bit strange. He always likes to show off his strength in front of Xiao Sou, so he definitely won't give up such a good opportunity. Jun Zitao also said. Nangong Yuqing was also very depressed at this moment. When he fought with Di Beichen, although Di Beichen seemed to be at a disadvantage, he felt that Di Beichen's power was strange. That kind of power mixed with killing intent entered his body like a sharp blade, causing him to feel a burst of pain. Most importantly, he couldn't expel that kind of power in a short time. It was because of this that he chose to give up. This kid was so strange. If he continued to fight, he might be seriously injured. The people present obviously weren't stupid. After thinking about it for a while, they understood the problem. Suddenly, they looked at Di Beichen with a trace of fear. It seemed that they had all underestimated Di Beichen. He wasn't someone they could easily provoke. If Nangong Yuqing didn't dare to continue fighting, then at least most of them weren't a match for him. For a time, everyone began to ponder in their hearts. The Di family wasn't simple this time. They had Bailey Hongzhuang as their pharmacist, and Di Beichen was such a talented cultivator. They were on the verge of rising. After Nangong Yuqing left, the matter came to an end. Xiao Sou was clearly still angry, but she didn't know what to say in this situation. Big sister, father has already told us not to take the initiative to find trouble with Di Beichen. Xiao Sudong could not help but remind her. He was Xiao Sou's biological younger brother. Although others didn't know that Xiao Sou had been scolded by someone, as her biological younger brother, he knew about it. That was because he had also been reprimanded by his father, who had asked them to keep a low profile. The Xiao family and the Di family are both big families. Why should we hide from them? Xiao Sou said unhappily. Xiao Sudong was also somewhat helpless. Big sister, listen to father's advice. If we cause trouble again, we will be punished when we go back. Seeing this, Xiao Sou looked at Xiao Sudong with displeasure. In the end, she chose to give up. Sooner or later, she would find an opportunity to teach Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson. The deck suddenly became quiet. After the flying artifact was activated, everyone felt a gust of wind. Under this gale, it was not an easy task to even stand firm. Chapter 4792. Almost at the same time, the cultivators on the deck swayed left and right, unable to stabilize themselves at all. Many cultivators directly fell and slid from the east side of the deck to the west. They didn't stop until they hit the edge of the deck. However, after a series of collisions, many people were already dizzy from the collisions, and many of them were even injured from the collisions. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others clearly didn't expect the movement to be so terrifying, but they were also people who had experienced hundreds of battles. They usually encountered all kinds of strange situations. Even if this was the first time they encountered such a situation, their reaction speed was very fast. They immediately attached their spirit energy to their feet and tried their best to stabilize themselves. Shengguan Yingying was careless and directly fell. Just as she was about to hit somewhere, Xiren grabbed her. Yingying, be careful. When Xiren grabbed the iron pole on the deck with his other hand and held Shengguan Yingying tightly with his other hand. Although people wouldn't be thrown out of the flying magic tool once they slipped, the injuries wouldn't be light. With the help of Xiren's strength, Shengguan Yingying quickly stabilized herself. The spirit energy in her body surged out and she didn't dare to relax at all. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also stabilized themselves immediately. Feeling the terrifying airflow around them, their hearts were filled with emotions. Xiaofeng, you didn't tell us before that the airflow would be so terrifying. Shengguan Yingying looked helplessly at Di Xiaofeng. When she heard Di Xiaofeng's indifferent expression, she thought it was a very easy thing. Now the facts told her that she thought too simply. Other than the fact that people wouldn't fly out of the deck, nothing else had changed. Seeing this, Di Xiaofeng smiled awkwardly. When I went out to train before, the airflow wasn't so terrifying. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also understood. Thinking about it, the airflow strength that Di Xiaofeng endured before was based on his previous strength. Now the airflow strength was obviously stronger than before. At this moment, Mo Yunjua's voice suddenly sounded. Some people say that we are country bumpkins who have never seen the world. At least we can still stand steadily, unlike some people who are like a silver spearhead. They can't even stand steadily. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others turned their eyes to Jun Zitao. Sure enough, Jun Zitao had already flown to the other side and was now trying to stand up. Hearing Mo Yunjua's mockery, Jun Zitao's face turned black. He remained silent, feeling depressed. He didn't expect that the airflow this time would be so terrifying. He didn't react in time and the back of his body was completely out of control. Following the swaying of the flying magic artifact, he flew in all directions. At this moment he felt as if his internal organs were about to be knocked out of place. When he heard Mo Yunjua's ridicule, he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Most importantly, the country bumpkins that he had mocked before were all standing properly. They did not fall down at all. This was awkward. Jun Lingshuan also stabilized his body for the first time, but it was too late to help Jun Zitao. Logically speaking, with Jun Zitao's strength, he shouldn't have fallen down. However, Jun Zitao didn't pay attention to the flying magic artifact just now, so he suffered a loss. Chapter 4793. Xiren looked at Mo Yunjua with a smile. Didn't we already know? The Jun family likes to flaunt their power with their mouths, but when it comes to facts they're useless. Wasn't it the same last time? Looking at Xiren's expression that said, "It's fine as long as we know it in our hearts." Jun Zitao couldn't hold it in any longer and spat out a mouthful of blood. This guy was too mean. He was already embarrassed enough when Mo Yunjua said that. Now that when Xiren mentioned it, he lost all his face. Nangong Yuqing's gaze fell on Xiren's body, and a strong sense of surprise emerged in his heart. In fact, he didn't care about Di Beichen and the others at all. The lower realms' resources couldn't be compared to the upper realms. Although the lower realms' cultivators had some ability to come to the upper realm, they still couldn't be compared to the geniuses of the aristocratic families. However, many of the cultivators present were unable to stabilize their bodies. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other cultivators from the lower realm were all able to stabilize themselves. Just this point alone couldn't be underestimated. Previously, the Jun family suffered a big loss at the hands of the Di family, so he somewhat looked down on them. However, now it seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did have some ability. If he underestimated them, it was very likely that he would fail miserably. Just like before when he and Di Beichen exchanged punches, it didn't seem to be a big deal to others, but only those who had fought with him would understand how uncomfortable it was. Thinking about it, the Jun family's disciples had the same thoughts as him. Although many of the cultivators had fallen, everyone's strength was there for all to see. Naturally, they stood up at the first moment. In a short time, everyone on the deck had stabilized their bodies. A gust of wind swept across everyone's body. Even with spirit energy protecting their bodies, everyone could still feel that the wind was as sharp as a blade, causing a burst of stinging pain when it blew across their bodies. It wasn't until this moment that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others understood what Di Xiaofeng meant by tempering. Because under the influence of this airflow, everyone's origin energy was exhausted extremely quickly. Not only that, but his physical body was also greatly affected. Once their essence energy was insufficient, they had no doubt that this energy would directly cut through their skin. The airflow here is really scary. It's not easy to stay on the deck for a long time. When Ziran frowned slightly, he could feel that his elemental energy was depleting rapidly. During this period of time, his strength had also increased by a lot, but in this short period of time, he had already consumed nearly half of the origin energy in his body. If this continued, he wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. He wasn't the only one. He noticed that the other cultivators around him didn't look too good either. Apparently they were all in the same situation. That's right. This is indeed not an easy task. Di Xiaofeng said, although this place does have a tempering effect, most people will still enter in the end. The airflow here isn't something ordinary people can withstand. Hearing this, Ziran nodded slightly. That's more like it. If these people could all endure here, then the strength of the upper realm's disciples would be too terrifying. Chapter 4794. Conserving elemental energy was also a kind of ability for cultivators. Cultivators of the same level would compete to see who could last until the end. The situation in front of them was undoubtedly a good opportunity. Bailey Hongzhuang attached the required amount of elemental energy to the soles of her feet. Stabilizing herself was undoubtedly the most important thing now. As for the elemental energy in her body, she did not attach too much to her body. This situation was extremely beneficial for tempering her physical body. Furthermore, her physical body was already stronger than that of an average cultivator. Normally, she would not be able to find a suitable environment to temper her physical body. Now that there was one in front of her, she naturally would not miss it. Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other. His thoughts were the same as Bailey Hongzhuang's. Now, he also understood the importance of tempering his physical body. Since they were going to stay here for 3 months, it was undoubtedly a good opportunity for them to cultivate. As Bailey Hongzhuang gradually reduced the amount of elemental energy in her body, the pain caused by the wind blades also increased continuously. Faintly, some bloodstains began to appear on her skin. Red flowers bloomed on her white dress. It was coquettish and desolate. Bailey Hongzhuang circulated the demon summoning scripture, while the elemental energy in her body continued to circulate. Even though the environment here was not good, the elemental energy in the airflow still existed. Through the circulation of the demon summoning scripture, she gradually absorbed and strengthened her dantian. Bailey Hongzhuang was dressed in white, and the blood-red color on her body was undoubtedly very conspicuous. Xiao Seiwu noticed this situation for the first time, and suddenly a trace of ridicule appeared in her eyes. Going to the immortal cloud secret realm with such little power, she is completely at the bottom of the list. Xiao Seiwu sneered in her heart. Even though the elemental energy on the deck was depleted very quickly, she still had half of her elemental energy in her body. She was not injured at all. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was already unable to hold on so quickly. It could be seen that the amount of elemental energy in her body was very little. Jun Lingshuan and the rest also noticed this scene. With this kind of power, I'm afraid she is only at the Star Radiance realm. Cultivators from the lower plane are naturally not as strong as us. It is not strange for such a situation to occur, Xiao Sudong said with a smile. Previously they had been suppressed by the Di family. Now they had finally found a way to turn the tables. When Shengguan Yingying and the others saw this situation, a trace of surprise appeared in their eyes. Logically speaking, with Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, she shouldn't be unable to hold on so quickly. Could it be that Hongzhuang is deliberately trying to confuse others? Shengguan Yingying's eyes flashed as she pondered. Now that everyone was gathered here, she could tell how strong they were from the time they lasted. She was well aware of Hongzhuang's strength and believed that she must have her reasons for doing so. When Ziran glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang and noticed that there seemed to be blood seeping out of Di Baichen's clothes, he then said, I'm afraid Hongzhuang isn't trying to confuse others. She's just tempering her body. Hearing that, Shengguan Yingying was struck dumb for a second. That seems to be the case. Now is indeed a good time to temper your body, Mo Yunjue also said. He also noticed this point and immediately reduced the amount of elemental energy covering his body. He began to use the power of the wind to temper his body. Seeing this, Ziran, Shengguan Yingying and Ao Lingxiao looked at each other. These guys were really abnormal. The pain of tempering one's body was not something that ordinary people could endure. Since they are already like this, we can't be lazy. Xiren suddenly chuckled. Chapter 4795. After making their decision, when Xiren and the other two no longer hesitated and began to use the power of the wind to temper their bodies. As their cultivation gradually increased, they also felt the importance of a strong physical body. They had long been used to suffering. As long as they could improve, suffering a little was nothing. Moreover, the people around them were all eyeing them covetously and did not take them seriously at all. This feeling made them very unhappy. When Xiao Sou saw the blood on Bailey Hongzhuang's body, she was sure that Bailey Hongzhuang would leave the deck and enter the room as quickly as possible. However, she noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang's body was gradually becoming more and more bloody, but she still had no intention of leaving. She could not help but frown. I didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so stubborn. She has already suffered such serious injuries and still refuses to leave. Jun Lingxuan and the others were also sizing up Bailey Hongzhuang. They all understood that Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation was weaker than theirs, so she would naturally be unable to hold on. One must know that even if there were no wounds on the body, the wind blades would already be very painful and unbearable. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had so many wounds on her body, it was not easy for her to still be able to hold on. Not only that, he also noticed that Di Beichen and Wen Xiren were in the same situation. However, they did not show any signs of unbearable pain on their faces. These people from the lower realms are pretty good at enduring, Yi Fuqian muttered to himself. Jun Zitao frowned. He felt that leaving quickly was more in line with the situation of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. This way he would be able to mock the other party back. However, the other party insisted on staying here, which made him speechless. As time gradually passed, many of the cultivators on the deck had exhausted their primary energy. The strong wind swept across their bodies, bringing about intense pain. Many of them were too embarrassed to leave after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others persevering. However, as more and more wounds appeared on their bodies, they grimaced in pain. Di Beichen and the others are too abnormal. They can still endure such pain. I can't take it anymore. I'm going in. Are you going in? I'm going in too. After the first cultivator mentioned that he wanted to go below the deck, many cultivators left one after another. In fact, although everyone knew that standing on the deck was a form of training, most people would not continue to stay here. That was because this place was simply too torturous. 3 months later they would enter the Immortal Cloud secret realm. That would be the time for them to compete. Staying on the deck was nothing but torture. Most importantly, they needed time to recover from their injuries. What they wanted was to enter the Immortal Cloud mystery realm in their best condition, and not torture themselves until they were neither human nor ghost. In a short period of time, the number of people on the deck had decreased by half, making the originally empty deck even more spacious. Xiao Sou realized that the primary energy in her body had been depleted. The intense pain caused her to frown. She looked around and realized that Bailey Hongzhuang's body was almost completely covered in wounds. However, under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang still had her eyes tightly shut. She had no intention of leaving. What a lunatic. Chapter 4796. Big sister, it's too torturous to stand here. Why don't we go down as well? Xiao Sudong could not help but ask. Many of their family's disciples had already gone up to the deck. They did not have to endure such torturous pain. Xiao Sou glanced at Xiao Sudong before looking at Di Beichen and the others who had no intention of leaving. She said in a deep voice, "If you can't stand it, you can leave first. I want to continue staying here." She was not an alchemist and could not be compared to Bailey Hongzhuang in the alchemy competition. Now, they were competing in cultivation. If she was defeated by Bailey Hongzhuang, how could she face others? Jun Lingxuan, Jun Zitao, Nangong Yuqing and the others were still standing on the deck. They had no intention of leaving. I suddenly realized that the cultivators from the lower realm are not simple. So many people can't stand it anymore, but they can still stay here. Indeed, I feel that we have underestimated them before. They still have some ability. Di Beichen's words make sense. It's not easy to go from the lower realm to the upper realm. Many of the cultivators present noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were clearly wounded, but they were still holding on and did not retreat at all. Their thoughts had already begun to change. Towards Wen Xiren and the others, they had never taken them seriously. After all, these people were only supporting characters in the Immortal Cloud secret realm. They could not even be considered as supporting characters. They were just cannon fodder. If it was not for Bailey Hongzhuang who had won so many spots for the D family, Wen Ziren and the others would not have had the chance to come here. However, after seeing the perseverance displayed by Ziren and the others, everyone's thoughts changed. After all, everyone admired cultivators with strong willpower. Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes and focused on circulating the demon summoning scripture. The intense pain on her body was not unbearable for her. In the past she had often endured such tempering. She knew in her heart that tempering one's body must be a painful process. If he gave up just like that, he wouldn't gain anything. On the contrary, as long as she continued to persevere, the harvest would definitely be better than she expected. Xiaofeng, I can't hold on any longer, Bailey Yunyan said after holding on for a long time. Initially, when she saw that Bailey Hongzhuang's people had no intention of leaving, she forced herself not to leave. However, as the pain gradually intensified, she couldn't hold on any longer. The cultivators of the 100 Lane clan had all left by now. She was the only one left here. Hearing Bailey Yunyan's words, Di Xiaofeng nodded and said, "You can go down and rest well." "What about you?" Bailey Yunyan couldn't help but ask. "Beichen has no intention of leaving. As his elder brother, how can I leave?" Di Xiaofeng smiled warmly, "You don't have to worry. It's good for me to stay up here. If I really can't take it, I'll go down directly." Hearing this, Bailey Yunyan's eyes flashed with hesitation and said, "All right then. After you go down, go back to your room and rest. If there's nothing else, it's best if you don't come out. I'll look for you after I go down," Di Xiaofeng said. Chapter 4797. The Bailey family was originally a relatively weak existence among the many forces here. If they were targeted after going down, it would be troublesome. Therefore, the best choice was to stay in seclusion and cultivate in peace. Time gradually passed, and the number of cultivators on the deck became fewer and fewer. 3 days later, Di Beichen's gaze landed on a black figure. He had been paying attention to this person for a while. Almost everyone couldn't help but discuss at this moment. However, this person didn't care about the thoughts of others. He directly sat on the ground and started cultivating. It was obvious that he had already treated this place as a place to cultivate and had no intention of leaving. If his judgment was not wrong, this person should have decided to temper his body here after stepping on the deck. "Big brother, who is that?" Di Xiaofeng looked in the direction Di Beichen was pointing. After seeing the other party clearly, he said, "The person you are talking about is Madman from the Great Devil sect." "Madman?" Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a trace of astonishment. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly, "That's right. This person is called Qin Feng. He is a genius cultivator from the Great Devil sect. His strength is extremely tyrannical. According to our judgment, he should be the strongest among all of us here." Hearing Di Xiaofeng's words, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but open her eyes and see the person they were talking about. Qin Feng was wearing black clothes. His expression was grave and stern, and his whole body was emitting an aura that kept people away. "He is the strongest?" Bailey Hongzhuang was also somewhat astonished. She really didn't notice this person's existence before. However, now that she looked carefully, she also found that this person was not simple. "That's right. He is completely a cultivation maniac. Once he starts cultivating, he looks like a madman. That's why everyone gave him a nickname, Madman. However, he is a relatively cold person. He generally doesn't like to interact with others. He spends almost all of his time on cultivation. He even feels that talking to others is a waste of time. Therefore, although he is the strongest and none of us dare to ignore him, he is too lazy to pay attention to ordinary things." As soon as these words came out, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other. It turned out to be this kind of temperament, no wonder she was ignored. "Let's not talk about him." Di Xiaofeng's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang. "The way you two cultivate is quite abnormal. This is completely a masochistic way of cultivation." Previously, when he was in the Di family, Di Beichen had lamented that Di Beichen and Gu Shijiu were in closed-door training almost every day. It was a little exaggerated. However, now that he saw the two of them like this, he understood the situation of the two people's daily cultivation. "Big brother, cultivating here is very helpful for tempering the body. Don't you think this is a good opportunity?" Di Beichen asked with a smile. "You're just looking for trouble here." Di Xiaofeng rolled his eyes. "Look at how many people are still here." In his line of sight, other than them, there were less than 10 cultivators left on the deck. "Big brother, if you don't like to cultivate here, you can directly go down. We have no problem here." Di Beichen chuckled. He naturally knew that Di Xiaofeng's usual cultivation method was not like this. If it wasn't for his face, Di Xiaofeng would have left long ago. Chapter 4798. Those guys haven't left yet, so how can I leave? Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows and quietly glanced at Jun Lingxuan and the others. Let me tell you, they must be very depressed right now. They usually don't suffer like this, but this time they're angry with you, so they've been holding it in until now. They must be cursing you in their hearts. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with a mischievous smile. The Di family and the Xiao family had always been very familiar. In the past, the Di family and the Xiao family had been friends for generations. As for the Jun family, because the two sides had always been opponents, they knew the Jun family's situation better than the Xiao family. Whether it was Jun Lingxuan or Xiao Sou, they were naturally cultivation geniuses. They usually cultivated very hard, but this kind of cultivation method was obviously not suitable for them. Hearing this, Di Beichen's lips curled up. They're willing to do this, so maybe it'll help them. When Di Xiaofeng noticed Jun Lingxuan and the others frowning, the smile in his eyes gradually deepened. If that's the case, then isn't it not worth it for us? Just as you said, if they didn't really want to stay here, then they definitely wouldn't have been able to last until the end. Di Beichen's expression was indifferent. He admitted that Jun Lingxuan and the others were cultivation geniuses, but these geniuses were still somewhat different compared to them. Because they were more self-trained, while Jun Lingxuan and the others relied on their family's cultivation resources. Although this was the advantage of their family's heritage, it was also a flaw. For cultivators like them who relied on their own strength to reach their current level, their perseverance was definitely not something Jun Lingxuan and the others could compare to. He believed that the other party wouldn't last long. Looking at Di Beichen's confident appearance, Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows, obviously thinking about whether he was right or not. Xiao Sou's gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. When she saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating with her eyes closed, she couldn't help but curse in her heart. I didn't expect this woman to be so patient. She hasn't left yet. In his line of sight, Bailey Hongzhuang's clothes had already been dyed red with blood. It was obvious that there were countless wounds on her body. In fact, her own situation was not much better than Bailey Hongzhuang's. Every second she stayed here made her feel extremely uncomfortable. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had not left yet. If she gave up just like that, it would be too embarrassing. Compared to the pain, she cared more about her reputation. Jun Lingxuan felt very helpless at this moment. Jun Zitao was originally staying with him, but he couldn't stand the torture and left. He also wanted to leave with Jun Zitao, but Xiao Sou was still here. If he left, he would lose face. 7 days was a complete torture for them. Almost everyone on the deck had left, leaving only the few of them here. He felt that it was normal for the madman of the Great Devil sect to stay here. After all, this person couldn't be judged by common sense. This kind of cultivation method should be normal for Qin Feng, but he didn't believe that Di Beichen and the others were the same as Qin Feng, all cultivation madmen. Chapter 4799. Even if they could hold on for one more second, it would still be a victory. As long as he gave up first, Di Beichen would have a reason to laugh at him. With this thought, Jun Lingxuan and the others continued to persevere. But another day passed. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were still the same as before. They did not have the slightest intention to leave. Beichen. Ziren looked at Di Beichen. Yingying's body is a little weak. Her injuries are too serious now. She can't take it anymore. I'll take her to rest first. Ziren naturally did not care about this kind of pain. Although his talent was not as good as Di Beichen's, he had been training with Di Beichen since he was young. His perseverance was definitely not weak. It was just that Shangguan Yingying had always stayed in the sect to cultivate. She rarely went through such training. Since going to Penglai Island, Shangguan Yingying had become much stronger than before. Her endurance had also greatly improved. However, there was still a gap. He understood that Shangguan Yingying had been holding on bitterly and was unwilling to give up. However, her body that was on the verge of collapse revealed that she had already persevered to the limit. Di Beichen also noticed this situation. He quickly said, "Take Yingying to rest. It's good to cultivate below. Hong Zhuang's healing medicine is very effective. Remember to apply it to Yingying." Seeing that Ziren was about to take her away, Shangguan Yingying could not help but say, "I can still hold on." "You're already like this. What are you still holding on for?" Ziren looked at Shangguan Yingying with heartache. He did not care about himself. However, seeing Yingying suffer like this, he really felt distressed. On one hand, he hoped that Yingying's strength could be improved and improve her ability to protect herself. On the other hand, he hoped that his strength could improve. As long as he could protect her, so what if Yingying's strength was weak? But everyone is still holding on. I don't want to give up like this. Shengguan Yingying's eyes were slightly red. In this team, her strength was undoubtedly the weakest. She knew this very well and hoped that she could keep up with everyone's pace. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang said, Yingying, everyone has different cultivation methods. What suits us may not suit you. You didn't have any foundation in body refinement before, so it is indeed very difficult for you to endure here. If you stay here for too long, it will cause irreversible damage to your body. Previously, she did not expect Shengguan Yingying to be able to hold on for so long. Other than the few people who were competing with each other, the rest of the cultivators present had already left. However, she felt that since Yingying was willing to persevere, she would let her persevere for a while longer. She could leave once she couldn't take it anymore. Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but say, I'll go down as well. This kind of body tempering is too abnormal. Without a solid foundation, it will be hard to endure. Ever since he met Di Beichen and the others, he realized that Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang, and Mo Yunjue were all really abnormal. Cultivation was completely masochistic. During this period of time, he had been cultivating very hard. However, when facing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, he really could not say that he was hard-working. You all go down first. Have a good rest. Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. In fact, she and Di Beichen both felt that the environment here was very suitable for their own cultivation. They did not request for everyone to stay here. Chapter 4800. Shengguan Yingying, who was originally unwilling to give up, felt a little better when she saw Ao Lingxiao preparing to leave. Yingying, we will go down first. When your condition improves, if you still want to come up, we will come up again. Xiren said with a smile. Seeing this, Shengguan Yingying nodded, all right then. Yunjue, do you want to go down with us? Ao Lingxiao asked. Mo Yunjue shook his head, you guys go down. I think the environment here is quite suitable for me. Seeing this, Ao Lingxiao and the others looked at each other. Sure enough, it was as they thought. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but chuckle. Mo Yunjue was the young master of Shitian Tower. The cultivators there were notoriously cruel. Although Mo Yunjue was the young master, according to their judgment, Mo Yunjue would not suffer less than other cultivators. On the contrary, he would suffer more. This situation was obviously not a problem for Mo Yunjue. If not, Mo Yunjue's cultivation speed would not be so fast. When Xiao Sou and the others saw that Shengguan Yingying and the others wanted to leave, they were overjoyed. After enduring for so long, they could finally be liberated. However, when they saw that Di Beichen and the others had no intention of leaving, they couldn't help but curse in their hearts. Another day passed. Xiao Sou felt that her body was no longer hers. Her body was already covered in wounds. If it wasn't for her anger, she would have collapsed. When Xiao Sudong walked to the deck and saw this scene, he couldn't help but say, Big sister, are you still going to stay here? It has been so many days. Your injuries are so serious. What are you doing here? Xiao Sudong couldn't hold on for 2 days. Although he wanted to compete with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, he finally decided to leave first. Even if he lost some face, at least he wouldn't feel so bad. He originally thought that after he went down, Xiao Sou would come down with him soon. He didn't expect that his injuries had already healed, but Xiao Sou still hadn't come down. He couldn't help but come up to take a look. He had never seen his sister in such a miserable state. It was as if she had just been fished out of a pool of blood. If he continued to stay here, wouldn't all the flesh on his body be shaved off? Sudong, you're here. Xiao Sou couldn't hold on any longer. After hearing Xiao Sudong's words, she was even more eager to leave. Xiao Sudong walked to Xiao Sou's side. Big sister, let's go. Don't continue to compete with them here. Xiao Sou shook her head. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang didn't leave, she would never leave. After Jun Lingxuan saw Xiao Sudong's ruddy complexion, a trace of envy appeared in his eyes. As the children of aristocratic families, they had always been treated very well. They must have lived very comfortably below the deck. Staying here was completely miserable. After struggling for a long time, Jun Lingxuan said, Miss Xiao, why don't we all go down? Are you also going to leave? Xiao Sou looked at Jun Lingxuan in surprise. She thought that Jun Lingxuan would also persist to the end. Chapter 4801. Although he wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to win against Di Beichen, It was obvious that Di Beichen's endurance was very terrifying. If he continued to endure like this, he was worried that he wouldn't be able to hold on. If he couldn't hold on and fainted, wouldn't that be even more embarrassing? If we want to win against them, we have plenty of opportunities. We don't have to insist on this kind of thing. Jun Lingxuan said. It was obviously not a wise move to compete with the other party's advantage with their own weakness. The most important thing was that he found that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two's faces had gradually begun to recover from their initial pale state. Their mental state was not the slightest bit sluggish, which was obviously different from how they forced themselves to hold on. If his judgment was correct, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two had gradually adapted to the strength of the wind blades on the deck. Although this discovery made him feel incredulous, he still had to admit that it was true. What's more, he found that he obviously couldn't adapt to all this in a short time. If this continued, it would only continue to widen the gap between the two sides. Since he couldn't win against them, he might as well give up. It was more powerful to leave now. Listening to Jun Lingxuan's words, Xiao Sou's eyes flashed a trace of hesitation. She, who originally wanted to leave, was even more shaken at this moment. Previously, even if she wanted to leave, she couldn't find a reason. Now, Jun Lingxuan's departure had given her a way out. If she didn't leave now, then she really couldn't find a reason to leave in the future. You're right, there's nothing to show on this deck. Let's leave together. Xiao Sou said. Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan's eyes flashed with a trace of joy. Okay, let's leave together. After Xiao Sudong heard this, he also let out a sigh of relief. He was really worried that if Xiao Sou continued to stay here, she might lose her life. After staying on the deck for so many days, whether it was Xiao Sou or Jun Lingxuan, they had no strength in their bodies. At this moment they stood up rashly and almost fell down. Fortunately, Xiao Sudong was right beside them. He hurriedly supported the two of them and asked, Big sister, are you all right? Bailey Hongzhuang's cold gaze fell on Xiao Sou and Yi Zichen. As expected, they left in the end. Xiao Sou naturally noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze, and a trace of embarrassment flashed in her eyes. She immediately averted her gaze and pretended not to see it. Nangong Yuqing had been on the deck the whole time. When he saw Jun Lingxuan leaving with Xiao Sou, he didn't continue to stay there. After all, his main target was Xiao Sou. Jun Lingxuan was also his competitor. He couldn't let Jun Lingxuan have the chance to be with Xiao Sou. After Jun Lingxuan and the other two left, only Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang, Mo Yunjue, and the great devil Sex Qin Feng were left on the deck. The four of them had their eyes closed and were peacefully cultivating and tempering their bodies. The deck was abnormally quiet. Bailey Hongzhuang felt that although the injuries on her body were very serious, they were gradually healing. Not only that, but she could also feel that her body was constantly strengthening in this state of continuous healing and injury. This was progress. Qin Feng had been cultivating with his eyes closed, but he still had some understanding of the situation on the deck. Chapter 4802. According to Qin Feng's judgment, the reason Bailey Hongzhuang's group was here was to defeat Xiao Sou's group. Since Xiao Sou's group had already left, there was naturally no need for them to continue staying here. However, half a month had already passed, and Bailey Hongzhuang's group still had no intention of leaving. This proved that from the beginning to the end, Bailey Hongzhuang's group's goal was only to cultivate here and not to defeat their opponents. Seeing Qin Feng suddenly take the initiative to talk to them, Bailey Hongzhuang's group was astonished. According to Di Xiaofeng's introduction, it was almost impossible for Qin Feng to take the initiative to talk to others. This is a good opportunity. Don't you think so too? Di Beichen's lips curled up in a faint smile. He knew that Qin Feng was an extremely pure person. He had no intention of showing off by staying here. All of them believed that this place was suitable for cultivating their bodies. Hearing this, Qin Feng nodded. You're right. This is indeed a good place to cultivate. It's just that those guys don't understand. I originally thought that I was the only one who would stay here. Di Beichen smiled and said, So, we're disturbing your peace? No. Qin Feng raised his eyebrows. Anyone can come here. This is not my private property. If you guys want to stay, it's your business. After saying that, Qin Feng did not say anything else. He closed his eyes again and started cultivating as if nothing had happened. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's group looked at each other. It seemed like Di Xiaofeng's introduction was not wrong. This Qin Feng's character was indeed somewhat weird. Mo Yunjue, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, Actually, people with this kind of character are quite good. With this kind of character, they are usually upright gentlemen. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. You're right. With his character, I'm afraid he won't even bother to participate in some shady business. Perhaps it's precisely because of his character that he can become the number one existence. Di Beichen's eyes were filled with wisdom. Anyone who wanted to be number one had to have no distracting thoughts. This was the fastest way to improve. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two did not delay any longer and continued to cultivate. They believed that if they stayed here for 3 months, the improvement of their physical bodies would be very obvious. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. As time went by, the physical strength of the three of them improved significantly. The wind blades scraped across their bodies, and the pain they felt was much less than before. Suddenly, several figures appeared on the deck. Beichen Hongzhuang, something happened. When Xiren's voice rang out. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two opened their eyes. They looked at Xiren in confusion and asked, "What happened?" Ao Ling Xiao and the Ao clan are fighting. What? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. You guys have been down there for such a long time. Why are you guys suddenly fighting today? When Zi explained, after we returned, we have been peacefully cultivating and healing our injuries. After recovering from our injuries, we prepared to come to the deck to cultivate with you guys. However, Ao Ling Xiao bumped into the Ao clan's team on the way here. His elder brother was obviously among them. So, they naturally got into trouble, when Zian explained. What's the situation now? Chapter 4803. The Ao family insisted that Ao Ling Xiao was a traitor to their family and demanded that we hand Ao Ling Xiao over to them. When Zi Ran's complexion was somewhat unsightly. We naturally didn't agree. However, the Ao clan relied on their numbers and called Ao Ling Xiao to stop them. Fortunately, Xiaofeng and the others also rushed over after hearing the news. However, the Jun family and the Xiao family also interfered in this matter, so the situation was very chaotic. I heard from Ling Xiao that there was the shadow of the Jun family behind his big brother. The reason why such a thing happened to his family before was because the Jun family secretly supported his big brother. If it wasn't for that, Ling Xiao wouldn't have fallen to such a state. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze darkened. She really didn't have a good impression of the Jun family. As she learned more about the Jun family, she found that this family really liked to do shady things behind the scenes. The Ao family originally had a good relationship with the Di family. Although they were only a small family to the Di family, they still had some dealings with each other. Now that the Ao family and the Jun family had become one, if he guessed correctly, the Jun family wanted to start with these peripheral forces and isolate the Di family step by step. Fortunately, the Di family's reaction was very fast, so they weren't affected too much. However, thinking about having such a family and thinking about how to plot against them all day really made him unhappy. The Jun family is indeed a malignant tumor. In order to take you down, they must have racked their brains. Mo Yunjue also spoke out. Di Beichen's gaze was cold. He had already noticed this point. We will take care of the Jun family sooner or later. He knew that Di Yujue was also dealing with the Jun family. If the previous matter wasn't enough to completely anger the Di family, then this time, the Jun family's action against him and Di Xiaofeng had already angered the entire Di family. Now that the two families were already in a state of irreconcilable hatred, a battle would be unavoidable soon. Soon, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others entered the magic artifact. This place was naturally extremely spacious. Not only were there rooms, but there were also places for gathering and cultivation. It could be said that there was everything one could wish for. However, the items on the list were also quite expensive. Fortunately, the cultivators inside were not short of money. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the decorations in the surroundings. They were all extremely gorgeous, causing her eyes to light up. However, they were clearly not in the mood to pay attention to all this. The four of them were very fast. Under Xiren's lead, they quickly arrived at Ao Ling Xiao's location. From afar, they noticed that the area was already surrounded by cultivators. Whispers could be heard coming from the inside. I didn't think that this person would be Ao Ling Xiao of the Ao clan. I heard that he killed his parents in order to seize the position of the clan head. However, he was discovered and fled. It's really hard to imagine that he would actually do such an intolerable thing. The most important thing is that he still dares to come here at this time. He came with the Di family. I don't know what's going on with the Di family. It's really hard to imagine that they would even accept this kind of person. Isn't that so? I think that this kind of person should directly pay with his life. I really don't know what Di Xiaofeng is thinking. Chapter 4804. Among the crowd, Ao Lingxiao, who was facing everyone's accusations, was livid. The blood drained from his face and he looked a little pale. Even though he had already expected such a situation to happen when he chose to return, he still found it hard to accept the fact that he was being condemned by everyone when it really happened. Killing one's parents was an unbearable crime no matter when it was pinned on one's head. After hearing the Ao family's accusations against Ao Lingxiao, Lin Taxing and the others were surprised. I have heard about what happened in the Ao family before, but I didn't expect him to be Ao Lingxiao. Lin Taxing frowned slightly. He didn't know much about Ao Lingxiao. He only knew that he was a friend of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. At this moment, when they knew that he was the notorious Ao Lingxiao, they found it hard to believe. They didn't understand how Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen could be friends with such a person. Although they were opponents of the Jun family, they couldn't accept standing here to protect Ao Lingxiao at this moment. They wouldn't even look at such a person on normal days. After the two did such a thing, they were hunted down by the Ao family. I didn't expect them to be so lucky. In the end, they came to the upper world with Beichen and Di Beichen. Lin Qianqian also said. Lin Yi's eyes flickered with doubts. Ao Lingxiao is quite bold. He knows that he will encounter the Ao family's cultivators here, but he still has the courage to come. Bailey Yunyan stood beside Di Xiaofeng and couldn't help but say, Xiaofeng, what they said shouldn't be true, right? Although she didn't have long contact with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, she knew something about them. In her eyes, if Ao Lingxiao was really such a person, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen would never protect him. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly. There are indeed many problems. Beichen told me that Ao Lingxiao was wronged. When he knew that Beichen's friend was Beichen's Ao clan's Ao Lingxiao, he had talked about this matter with Beichen. Because if the other party was really such a person, then he would definitely not protect him. Killing one's own father and mother, this kind of person should be cut into pieces. However, Beichen told him another truth. In fact, when he first heard that such a thing had happened in the Ao clan, he had become suspicious because it was really too strange. However, since all the members of the Ao clan believed so, he naturally wouldn't delve into it. In addition, the Ao family and the Jun family were very close now. So, he didn't want to know about them. After knowing the truth of Di Beichen's words, he was extremely shocked. After thinking for a long time, he still believed Di Beichen's words. Because this statement was obviously more convincing than the one passed down by the Ao clan. Most importantly, he understood that if Ao Lingxiao was really such a person, then after the matter was exposed, he wouldn't have the courage to come back at all. With his strength, he would be a powerful existence in the lower realm, but he still chose to come back and face all this. If there wasn't a great injustice, he wouldn't make such a choice. Hearing this, a hint of understanding appeared in Bailey Yunyan's eyes. I know there must be something hidden in this, but the current situation is not easy to deal with. Chapter 4805. Ao Zhengquang looked deeply at Di Xiaofeng, his face full of anger. I don't care if this is your family's matter. Since Ao Lingxiao came with us, he's our teammate. There's no reason for you to take him away. Di Xiaofeng stood in front of Ao Lingxiao with a tough attitude. Obviously, he had made up his mind not to let anyone take him away. Following Di Xiaofeng's words, the surrounding crowd sighed. Di Xiaofeng is too unreasonable. He's protecting such a scum. I really don't know what he's thinking. Di Xiaofeng isn't usually like this. Why would he do such a strange thing today? Don't worry, let's watch first. It's rare to see something interesting. The crowd was obviously enjoying the show. Since they came below the deck, they had been cultivating in seclusion. Now that such a big thing happened, everyone was very interested. Di Xiaofeng, I respect you as the young master of the Di family. That's why I treat you with respect. Ao Lingxiao is a member of our Ao family. What's the reason for you to be so dominant? Ao Zhengquang's face was serious. He's my younger brother. Since he's back, he should join our team. Besides, he killed his parents. He should be punished according to the family rules. As he spoke, Ao Lingxiao looked at the crowd and said, Everyone, don't you think Di Xiaofeng is meddling too much? Di's eyes frowned. Xiaofeng, what's going on? If he's really a member of their family, then return him to them. If we take him in, it will ruin our family's reputation. There were many kinds of bad people, but killing one's parents was the most unforgivable kind. At this time, Jun Lingshuan also stood out and said, Di Xiaofeng, aren't you meddling too much? You want to meddle in other people's family matters. Although your Di family is stronger than the Ao family, you can't bully others like this. That's right. You're really bullying others like this. Xiao Sou stood up as well. I was just saying how desperate the people from the lower realm were. I didn't expect to be associated with such people. It's really an eye-opener. Xiao Sou Jun Lingshuan, why are you guys everywhere? Lin Yi stood up unconvinced. This is a matter between us and the AO family. What does it have to do with you? Originally, this matter was already very troublesome. Now that Jun Lingshuan and Yi Shiwen had appeared, the matter was naturally even more difficult to resolve. Lin Yi, what you said is interesting. Xiao Sou chuckled lightly. We saw injustice on the road, so we drew our swords to help. Is there a problem? I'd like to ask everyone here, do you think you can stand by and watch such a thing happen? Everyone nodded in agreement. The D family was indeed in the wrong. Young Master Jun and young Miss Xiao are both men of justice. That's why they stood up for me. If it weren't for them, I'm sure your D clan wouldn't even bother to reason with me. Ao Zhengquang looked angry. As early as the day my parents died, I swore that I would find this beast and punish him according to the family law. Otherwise, I would be sorry for my parents' souls in heaven. Shengguan Yingying couldn't help it at the moment. When she heard Ao Lingxiao talk about this matter before, she felt that it was infuriating. Chapter 4806. Now looking at Ao Zhengquang's appearance, she suddenly understood. This guy was really good at acting. If she didn't know the truth, she would have been completely deceived by this guy. That angry look, that hateful tears, who could doubt it? Ao Zhengquang, don't confuse right and wrong. Obviously you did all these things. Shengguan Yingying said. When Ao Zhengquang saw Shengguan Yingying, his eyes flashed with doubt. He didn't know this woman. I confuse right and wrong? The truth of this matter had already been revealed. In my opinion, you are the one who was deceived by Ao Lingxiao. You really don't make a draft when you lie. Shengguan Yingying was speechless. She really didn't know what to say when she met this kind of guy who lied without blushing. Miss, you are too naive. Previously, you were in the lower realm and listened to his nonsense. Now, everyone in the upper realm knows the truth of this matter. If you continue to be deceived by him, then it is really. Ao Zhengquang shook his head with a speechless look. His meaning was obvious. If she still believed Ao Lingxiao under such circumstances, then she was really stupid. Ao Zhengquang, don't think that you can just put the dirty water on my head. Ao Lingxiao looked at Ao Zhengquang with bloodshot eyes. The truth will never be buried. Ao Zhengquang sneered. Ao Lingxiao, things have already come to this point and you still want to quibble. I didn't expect that after a trip to the lower realm, your ability to fool people has improved a lot. No wonder you dare to come back. The person who killed my parents is obviously you. Ao Lingxiao's eyes flashed with deep hatred. I have always regarded you as a respectable big brother. But you actually did such a thing for the position of the family head. I know that under your conspiracy I can't defend myself. But I won't let you confuse right and wrong like this. Even if I die, I will let the family see your face clearly. Otherwise, I won't have the face to see my parents. Hearing Ao Lingxiao's words, everyone's face changed slightly. They had already recognized the truth. They didn't expect Ao Lingxiao to say another version. Most importantly, they had never heard of this version before. Ao Lingxiao, no matter what you say now, it is useless. Everyone knows that you are just quibbling. Ao Zhengquang turned to look at Di Xiaofeng. Obviously, he didn't want to argue with Ao Lingxiao on this matter. Di Xiaofeng, if you believe what he said, it is too ridiculous. Today I will definitely bring him away. I hope you can agree to my request on account of the good relationship between our Ao clan and the D clan. Looking at Ao Zhengquang's aggressive appearance, Di Xiaofeng also frowned. In the absence of evidence, this matter was really difficult to refute. Most importantly, almost everyone believed in Ao Zhengquang. It would be very difficult for Ao Lingxiao to make a comeback. Emperor Xiaofeng, Ao Zhengquang has already spoken to this point, and you still want to consider? Jun Lingshuan's eyes were filled with sarcasm. Can't you make the decision? Why don't you find Di Beichen? At this moment, a voice was heard. Jun Lingshuan, we haven't seen each other for a while. You seem to miss me. As soon as the voice fell, Di Beichen and the others appeared in front of everyone. Chapter 4807. Even if he was facing Di Xiaofeng, Jun Lingshuan didn't think much of it. Because they had been rivals for so many years, they already knew each other like the back of their hands. On the contrary, this Di Beichen had only appeared for a short time, so he didn't know what the other party would do. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen teamed up, they had already suffered a loss. Originally he thought that Di Beichen's strength wasn't enough, but Nangong Yuqing also suffered a loss, so he couldn't underestimate him. Right now he didn't know how strong Di Beichen was or what other methods he had, so it was better to be cautious. Di Beichen, you finally appeared. Jun Lingxuan said coldly. Di Beichen's lips curved into a faint smile. It seems that after leaving the deck, you've had a good time here. You don't seem to be weak or tired at all. As soon as these words came out, Jun Lingxuan's lips couldn't help but twitch. On the deck he had indeed lost to Di Beichen. But he didn't expect this guy to bring up this matter as soon as he arrived, making his momentum unable to rise. Di Beichen, you wouldn't want to cover up this scum who killed his parents, would you? Jun Lingxuan cleverly changed the topic. From the previous few confrontations, he had already understood that if he continued to talk about this matter, the one who would suffer in the end would be him. Your Jun family's shady business, aren't you very clear in your heart? Di Beichen threw out these words lightly, his wise and sharp eyes looking straight at Jun Lingxuan, as if he had seen through everything. Under Di Beichen's gaze, Jun Lingxuan only felt uncomfortable and couldn't help but feel angry. This guy who appeared out of nowhere really made him unhappy to the extreme. What do you mean by that? Jun Lingxuan lowered his voice and his expression became serious. Your character can be seen from the way the Jun family bribed medicine master Qin. Di Beichen's gaze was mild. In order to defeat the Di family, you must have been racking your brains all day long, right? Sorry for troubling you. Di Beichen, don't talk nonsense. Jun Zitao said angrily. Bailey Hongzhuang also stood up at this moment. What exactly happened, others may not know, but you know very well. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at the people around her, and her voice became louder. As everyone knows, our Di family has always had business dealings with the Ao family. Our relationship is also very good. Moreover, Ao Ling Xiao was already the next patriarch of the Ao clan. There was no need for him to kill his parents. If you were in his shoes, would you do the same? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the people present were slightly stunned. They didn't know much about this matter and were just following the crowd. But according to this, Ao Ling Xiao really didn't have to do that. With the Ao family's patriarch's love for Ao Ling Xiao, as long as he wanted to be the next patriarch, the patriarch of the Ao family wouldn't refuse. On the contrary, if Ao Jun Kuang wanted to be the next patriarch, it wouldn't be so easy. Originally, the Ao family and the Di family had a good relationship and the young patriarch was Ao Ling Xiao. Chapter 4808. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and her eyes fell on Ao Zhengquang. Without a doubt, it's him. Bailey Hongzhuang pointed her finger at Ao Zhengquang. Her sharp eyes seemed to be able to see through people's souls. As the former head of the Bailey family, Bailey Hongzhuang's words were undoubtedly very influential. Her analysis was clear and logical. No loopholes could be found and it was impossible to refute. Before, almost everyone believed that Ao Zhengquang was telling the truth, but now some people in the crowd began to waver. If this is the case, then what Bailey Hongzhuang said is very reasonable. Ao Ling Xiao has no reason to do this. I can testify about this matter. Ao Ling Xiao was indeed the young master of the Ao family. So when I heard this news before, I felt very strange. Could it be that Ao Zhengquang really inverted right and wrong? After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Lin Taxing couldn't help but say, it seems that Hongzhuang already knew the truth. If what Ao Ling Xiao said is true, then Ao Zhengquang is really a scheming person. Lin Chanshan's eyes were full of disgust. Although I still don't know which is true and which is false, the old head of the Ao family and his wife are really sad. They actually gave birth to such a scum and ruined their family. Miss Bailey, you can't talk nonsense. Ao Zhengquang saw that many of the surrounding cultivators began to change their minds and hurriedly said, our family has long had no objection to this matter. Jun Lingxuan also said, that's right. Why should we believe your one-sided story? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. What I said is the truth. If Ao Zhengquang is really wholeheartedly for the good of the family, then he should follow his father's thoughts. Why did Ao Zhengquang have a close relationship with the Jun family as soon as he became the head of the family? The smile in Di Beichen's eyes gradually deepened. Jun Lingxuan, do you think there is a possibility that your Di family is supporting Ao Zhengquang in order to disintegrate my Di family's power? If Di Zhirais and the others had thought that Ao Lingxiao's matter had nothing to do with them after hearing this, they suddenly understood. In the past, the cooperation between the Ao clan and us had always been pretty good. Later on, they suddenly stopped cooperating. I still felt that it was a little strange. So this is where the problem lies. Daiheoan had a look of realization on his face, as if he had suddenly figured out the problem that he had been unable to figure out before. That's right. If all of this is true, then the Jun family is really unscrupulous. A look of disgust appeared on Di Jirai's face. He was already filled with disgust towards the Jun family, but he didn't expect them to go this far. Lin Chanchan had an incredulous look on her face. If that's really the case, then it's really terrifying. The struggle between the aristocratic families was often very complicated. There weren't many things that were exposed on the surface, but when all of this was exposed, the bloody reality was really hard to accept. Jun Lingshuan and the others, who had been maintaining their calm until now, could no longer remain calm after hearing Di Beichen's words. They hurriedly said, "Di Beichen, what nonsense are you talking about? Why do you say that I'm talking nonsense?" Di Beichen asked back. Chapter 4809. Do you have evidence? Di Beichen looked indifferent. If there is no evidence, then why do you say that I am talking nonsense? I don't need evidence. You are talking nonsense. Jun Lingshuan said without hesitation. Then we don't need evidence. What Ao Lingxiao said is the truth. Mo Yunjue's cold voice sounded. As soon as these words came out, Jun Lingshuan could not help but be stunned. His face suddenly became more ugly. He did not expect to be tricked by Di Beichen again. Everyone, don't be fooled by their words. They are completely inverting right and wrong. Ao Zhengquang's eyes flashed with a trace of panic. Originally, the situation was in his hands. He did not expect that in the blink of an eye, the situation would completely change. All of this changed when Bailey Hongzhuang and others appeared. He did not expect these people to be so good at talking. Shangguan Yingying breathed a sigh of relief and secretly said, "Sure enough, this kind of thing should be handed over to Beichen and Hongzhuang. What we said before was useless." When they came, the situation completely changed. Previously, everyone believed that Ao Zhengquang was right. They only felt that it was impossible to argue. Now everyone's thoughts began to waver. When Ziren listened to Shangguan Yingying's words and could not help but chuckle. Beichen and Hongzhuang have always been good at talking. They are good at this kind of thing. If Ling Xiao had this kind of talking skill before, he would not have been suppressed by Ao Zhengquang. Yes. Shangguan Yingying nodded in agreement. Just now, Ling Xiao was completely suppressed by Ao Zhengquang. He did not even have the strength to refute. It is indeed not convincing. We are inverting right and wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. When it comes to the ability to invert right and wrong, I am afraid that no one is better than you, right? In order to be able to become the head of the family, you can even do such a thing. Don't you feel condemned in your heart? Don't talk nonsense here. Ao Junquang was also enraged. In any case, you must hand Ao Ling Xiao over to me today. This is our Ao family's matter. We don't need you to interfere. As he spoke, Ao Junquang stretched out his hand and grabbed Ao Ling Xiao. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Ao Ling Xiao had to die. Only when Ao Ling Xiao died would the truth be buried forever. He didn't expect that Ao Ling Xiao would actually get involved with the Di family, which made things a lot more complicated. Di Xiaofeng slapped Ao Ling Xiao's hand away, his eyes cold. This matter is related to the Di family, and it's not just your business anymore. Before we get to the bottom of this, you can't take Ao Ling Xiao away. Seeing this, Ao Junquang's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. It seemed that it was impossible to take Ao Ling Xiao away today. This matter is the Ao clan's own matter to begin with. Perhaps you guys are simply distorting the truth. Xiao Soa looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Words have no proof. This matter has already happened for so long. There is no evidence at all. If you want to quibble, no matter what you say, Ao Zhengquang can't produce any evidence. However, so many people in the Ao clan are blinded by him. Bailey Hongzhuang, even if your mouth is powerful, the truth is the truth. There is no use in quibbling. Chapter 4810. Xiao Soe naturally heard the sarcasm in Bailey Hongzhuang's words, and a hint of coldness flashed in her eyes. What I said is the truth. The situation of the two of them is completely opposite. Obviously, one of them must be lying. This matter has been over for so long and there is no evidence. If someone wants to quibble, then naturally they just have to say the opposite. Miss Xiao is really understanding. Finally, someone came out to speak justice for me. Otherwise, this demon girl will confuse right and wrong. When Ao Zhengquang saw Xiao Soe stand up, a hint of joy flashed on his face. He was also eloquent, but when Bailey Hongzhuang's people said that just now, he didn't know how to answer. Were you calling a demon girl? Lin Yi heard Ao Zhengquang's address to Bailey Hongzhuang, and immediately questioned. Ao Zhengquang was also intimidated by Lin Yi's momentum for a while. After a moment of shock he replied, I said she is a demon girl. The truth of this matter is already known to everyone. After what she said, this matter was completely reversed. If it is not misleading, then what is it? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. This address is quite good. She found that many people would demonize the other party when they couldn't outtalk the other party. She didn't care about such a title. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent look, Ao Zhengquang's face was a little ugly. This person is completely stubborn. Saying that our Hongzhuang is a demon girl, I think you are the pighead. Shengguan Yingying glanced at Ao Zhengquang coldly. Since this guy appeared, the more she looked at him, the more she disliked him. When she thought that this guy was an animal who killed his parents, she felt that such a title was really suitable for him. No matter what, this guy wasn't human. What about you? Am I wrong? Before Ao Zhengquang finished speaking, Shengguan Yingying directly retorted. Yingying, don't insult pigs, Di Beichen said lightly. When these words were spoken, everyone present was stunned. When they realized the true meaning of these words, everyone could not help but cover the corners of their mouths and laugh. Seeing that everyone was laughing at him, Ao Zhengquang's face became more and more ugly. This matter was originally our family's matter. It's fine if you want to forcibly intervene, but now you're actually insulting me. Could it be that you're bullying my Ao clan because there's no one else? Ao Zhengquang's face was filled with anger. He was now the patriarch of the Ao family. In terms of status, he was a level higher than Di Beichen and the others. After all, they were only young masters while he was already the patriarch of a family. As Ao Zhengquang's voice fell, the cultivators of the Ao clan also stood out. Their meaning was very obvious. If they really wanted to fight, they would not be afraid. Just then, Lin Taxing stepped forward and said, Actually, it's not impossible to discern the truth. What's the way? Ao Lingxiao quickly asked. In the past, he thought that as long as Di Beichen was willing to help him, he could take back the Ao clan. But now, it seemed that he had been too naive about everything. Strength was naturally the most important, but if the people of the family did not believe him and thought that he was a traitor, then even if he suppressed Ao Zhengquang, the family would not accept him. Chapter 48:11. Under such circumstances, the best way was to reveal the truth of what had happened back then to the world. In this way there was no need for him to explain further. Everyone in the clan would understand everything. After seeing Ao Lingxiao's reaction, Ao Zhengquang's face immediately showed an urgent expression. He asked, What's the way? I must reveal everything to the world so that others can no longer confuse the truth. Looking at Ao Zhengquang's indignant expression, Xiren and the others looked at each other and sighed in their hearts. This guy was simply a drama queen. No wonder so many people in the Ao clan were deceived by him. It is said that the Holy Assembly has a way to distinguish between right and wrong, but only the Holy Maiden of Light can do it. Lin Taxing's gaze fell on Xiao Sou. If it was something else, it would be difficult for us to do it. However, the next Holy Maiden of Light is here. Miss Xiao is so righteous. I'm sure she will agree. As soon as he said this, everyone looked at Xiao Sou. That's right. I also heard that the Holy Assembly does have such a secret method. However, because the Holy Maiden of Light has not appeared for many years, there has been no news. This is the best method for things like this where we can't find any evidence and it's hard to determine the truth. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had never heard that the Holy Assembly had such a method. However, if it really did exist, it would be the best way to help Ao Lingxiao clear his name. Even if Xiao Sou became the Holy Maiden of Light and wanted to help Ao Zhengquang, she would not be able to fake it in front of everyone. Ao Junquang's heart thumped when he heard that there was such a method. He had thought that he had done a clean job, but he hadn't been able to kill Ao Lingxiao. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been so much trouble later on. Even if Ao Lingxiao was now connected to Di Beichen and the others, he was still not worried because Ao Lingxiao could not find any evidence to refute all of this. However, if such a method really existed, then the truth might really be revealed one day. At that time he would really be finished. Thinking of this, Ao Zhengquang could not help but look nervously at Jun Lingxuan. Jun Lingxuan naturally guessed the worry in Ao Zhengquang's heart, and immediately gave him a reassuring look. If it was in the past he might not have been confident, but now that they had joined forces with the Xiao family, Xiao Sou could be said to be one of their own, there was no need to worry about anything else. After noticing Jun Lingshuan's eyes, Ao Zhengquang was relieved and his face once again showed a calm expression. In that case, we'll wait for Miss Xiao to distinguish right from wrong, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a faint smile. Looking at the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's lips, Xiao Soa felt inexplicably dazzled. I just don't know when this Xiao Soa will truly become the saintess of the light. That's right. All bark and no bite. It's been so long and there's still no successor. I'm starting to wonder if the news that was released before was fake. It shouldn't be, but there must be a problem. Otherwise it wouldn't be delayed for so long. For a moment, everyone's attention shifted to Xiao Soa. Regarding this, everyone was also full of doubts. Chapter 48:12. Don't worry. If there is really such a method, I will definitely distinguish between right and wrong. Xiao Soa gritted her teeth. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled sweetly. That's great. Ao Zhengquang, who was at the side, couldn't help but say anxiously after hearing this. Then this matter is over? It was not easy for him to seize this opportunity to capture Ao Lingxiao. If he gave up just like that, it would be too difficult to accept. Ao Zhengquang, if we hand Ao Lingxiao over to you now, I think you will kill him to silence him, right? Before the truth is clear, Ao Lingxiao will absolutely not go back to the Ao family with you. Di Xiaofeng said coldly. From the beginning to the end, their attitude was very firm. No matter what, they would not let Ao Lingxiao leave. He did such an intolerable thing. He should be punished according to the family law. Ao Zhengquang immediately retorted. Young Master Jun, what do you think of this matter? Ao Zhengquang looked at Jun Lingshuan for help. He knew very well that the Ao family and the Di family were not on the same level, so no matter what he said, it had no deterrent effect on the Di family. However, once Jun Lingshuan intervened, things would be different. Ao Lingxiao is in our hands. You can rest assured. As long as there is a need to confront in the future, he will definitely participate. He will never run away. Di Beichen's voice slowly sounded, directly interrupting Jun Lingshuan's words. Jun Lingshuan looked at Di Beichen coldly. Since this guy appeared, their plan had been hindered. Originally, Ao Zhengquang's matter was done cleanly. If Di Beichen and the others had not found Ao Lingxiao, there would not be such a thing. They must deal with Ao Lingxiao as soon as possible. Otherwise, no one knew what would happen next. Although Xiao Soa was already one of them, he did not know why when he saw Di Beichen and the others' confident appearance, he was always worried that there would be other changes in this matter. In fact, ever since these people appeared, there had been various changes in their plans. Since young Master Di has already said so, I hope you can keep your word. Young Master Jun can rest assured. We've always been men of our word. As long as some people can restrain themselves and stop thinking about killing people to silence them, it will be fine. As soon as he said that, Jun Lingshuan's gaze became even more gloomy. He looked at Di Beichen as if he couldn't wait to make him disappear from this world. I think you're thinking too much, Jun Lingshuan said coldly. I hope so too. Di Beichen's face was calm, as if he didn't feel the hostility in Jun Lingshuan's words. If there's nothing else, then everyone can leave. Di Xiaofeng looked at the people gathered together. These people were obviously here to watch the show. Before we find out the truth, I hope that everyone will not accuse Ao Lingxiao of murdering his parents. After all, there are still many suspicious points in this matter. I believe that all of you are smart people. You should be able to understand where the problem lies. Di Xiaofeng's handsome face had a faint smile. In a few words, he had already magnified the problem of this matter, causing everyone to begin to think about the problem. Chapter 48:13. After everyone left, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to the house. Lin Taxing and the others didn't leave either. Instead, they followed Di Beichen and the others. They had a lot of doubts about this matter. Di Beichen, is what you just said true? As soon as they entered the house, Lin Taxing's voice rang out. He really had too many doubts. If it wasn't for the fact that the situation outside wasn't appropriate, he would have asked long ago. Di Beichen nodded slightly. Yes, it's all true. Hearing Di Beichen's affirmative answer, the Di family and the Lin family's eyes flashed with deep emotions. I really didn't expect the Ao family to have such a big conspiracy. If all of this was planned by the Jun family, then they are too terrifying. Lin Chanshan's eyes flashed with shock. The news of killing one's parents had shocked everyone when it came out. At first, they all thought that Ao Lingxiao was wicked beyond redemption. They really didn't expect that the mastermind behind all of this was the Jun family. The Jun family has never been a good person. In order to deal with us all these years, it can be said that they have done everything possible. In this alchemy competition, if it wasn't for Hong Zhuang, then our situation would be very bad. Di Xiaofeng's eyes rippled with coldness. In his eyes, the Jun family was completely like a poisonous snake always watching them. He didn't know when it would bite them. This feeling was undoubtedly very uncomfortable. I think we should get rid of these abominable people from the Jun family as soon as possible. Di Zhi's eyes were full of disgust. They can even use such despicable means. Who knows what terrible things they will do in the future. Ao Lingxiao, can you tell us in detail what happened back then? Di Xiaofeng looked at Ao Lingxiao with a serious expression. Before, he only heard Di Beichen say that Ao Lingxiao was innocent, but he didn't know much about the conspiracy. Today, after confronting Ao Zhengquang, he found out that the reason why Ao Lingxiao's family was in fact very much related to the Di family. When Ao Lingxiao saw that the Di family had chosen to believe in him, his eyes flashed with a touch of gratitude. Although he understood that all this trust was because of Di Beichen and the others, this trust was very precious to him after he had been despised by everyone. Then Ao Lingxiao explained the situation to everyone. After hearing all this, everyone's eyes flashed with understanding. The celestial bluestone of the Ao clan is actually a very important cultivation resource. The celestial bluestone that our clan needed was always provided by the Ao clan. All these years there has never been any unhappiness. It seems that the Jun family has taken a fancy to the celestial bluestone of the Ao family. That's why they came up with this plan. It's really a good plan. Ao Zhengquang himself wanted to be the head of the family, but no one in the family supported him. With the support of the Jun family he accomplished everything. Now they have pushed all the blame on Ao Lingxiao, and he has become the righteous leader. It's really a good plan. Lin Qianqian sighed. This matter was really terrifying. Even they had to admit that the Jun family's plan was really good. Chapter 48-14. Everyone had some doubts about this situation before, but after hearing everything that Ao Lingxiao said, they completely believed this version of the story. When this happened to the Ao family, they felt that the situation was a little far-fetched. In addition, the Jun family was involved. Even if there was no proof, they were already certain in their hearts. So, it must have been hard for you all these years. Lin Qianqian sighed as she looked at Ao Lingxiao. They were more concerned about the Jun family's conspiracy, but in fact, Ao Lingxiao was the most pitiful person in the entire incident. Not only did he lose his parents in a single night, but his own elder brother had also turned into such a vicious person. Moreover, he had to bear this unbearable infamy. It was not easy for him to have the courage to come back here. As soon as Lin Qianqian finished speaking, everyone in the room turned to look at Ao Lingxiao. Thinking about it carefully, if they were Ao Lingxiao, they probably wouldn't be able to endure such a situation. I will definitely reveal the truth to the world. Ao Lingxiao's eyes were burning with a stubborn flame. Although my brother killed his parents, if it were not for the Jun family adding fuel to the fire, this would not have happened. He knew that his biggest enemy was the Jun family. Lingxiao, don't worry. The Jun family is also our enemy. Di Beichen patted Ao Lingxiao on the shoulder. He knew what the other party was thinking. The Jun family was a malignant tumor. If the Jun family could not be uprooted, even he would not be at ease. Ao Lingxiao looked deeply at Di Beichen. After seeing the sincerity and determination in his eyes lit up with hope. Di Beichen was undoubtedly the person he was most grateful to. Di Beichen gave him hope. If he had not met Di Beichen, he would not even have the courage to come to the upper realm. It seems that after we enter the Divine Cloud secret realm, we must be more careful, especially to protect Lingxiao. Lin Taxing looked serious. After they enter, they will definitely find a way to find Lingxiao and make a move on him. Once the truth is revealed to the public, it will be a huge blow to them. As an aristocratic family, reputation had always been very important. Once their reputation was tarnished, they would be despised by many. As soon as he said this, everyone nodded in agreement. After entering the Immortal Cloud secret realm, everyone will actually appear in different places. When the time comes, we will gather as soon as possible. No matter what, we must protect Lingxiao. Di Xiaofeng said in a deep voice. They absolutely could not let Jun Lingxuan and the others succeed in this matter. All right. Not long after Jun Lingxuan returned to his house, Ao Zhengquang appeared in his house. Young Master Jun, what should we do now? Ao Zhengquang asked nervously. Pa. Jun Lingxuan raised his hand and gave Ao Zhengquang a slap in the face. The slap sent the other party spinning in a circle. It's all your fault. Jun Lingshuan couldn't hide the anger on his face. We had already planned everything for you. Everything should have been foolproof, but you left behind such a big weakness. Chapter 48:15. Young Master Jun Ao Zhengquang covered his red and swollen face with one hand, but he didn't dare to grumble with that flattering smile of his. Back then, I didn't handle the matter well enough and let that little bastard escape, which led to the current situation. I didn't think that his luck would be so good that he would meet Di Baichen in the lower realm. Now we definitely can't let him tell the truth. Otherwise it will be really troublesome. Do I need you to tell me that? Jun Zitao snorted and turned to Jun Lingshuan. Big brother, we definitely can't let them have a chance. After entering the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm, the first thing we have to do is kill Ao Lingxiao. Jun Lingshuan nodded. Killing Ao Lingxiao is indeed the best way. As long as we don't confront him, then even if Di Baichen guesses the truth, it will be useless. Di Baichen and the others definitely know that we have this idea. So it won't be so easy to accomplish it. Jun Zitao sighed. I feel that Di Baichen's appearance is a variable. Originally we could completely suppress the Di family this time. Who would have thought that things would turn out like this? Indeed. Jun Lingshuan frowned. Di Baichen is really lucky. Back then he fell into the lower realm and didn't die. Now he has brought us so much trouble. Big brother, I don't think that things have reached that point. Hasn't the Shao family already joined forces with us? Jun Zitao's eyes shone brightly. As long as we get Xiao Sou to stand on our side, we might be able to use this matter to bring down the Di family. That's right. Let's say that they did it on purpose for the celestial blue stone. Ao Zhengquang said. Things aren't that simple. Jun Lingshuan's eyes were deep. Although the Shao family has indeed joined forces with us, their attitude isn't clear enough. If we want them to be worthy of our trust, there must be something that binds us together. Now is not the time. All these years they had always wanted to cooperate with the Shao family, but the Shao family's attitude towards them was also very clear. If it weren't for the incident with Di Baichen, they probably wouldn't have been able to cooperate with the Shao family at all. Even though they were now allies on the surface, he knew very well that the trust between them was not enough. If he could marry Xiao Sou, then there would be no problem. Big brother, you've really thought it through. Jun Zitao sighed. If that's the case, then this is the only way we have now. Let's do our best. Jun Lingshuan nodded. I hope God will be on our side this time. Once they entered the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm, it would depend on whose luck was better and who could find Ao Lingxiao first. Bailey Hongzhuang freshened up and changed into a clean set of clothes before walking out of the house. Di Baichen and the rest were obviously waiting for her to eat together. Although they were currently on a flying magic tool, there was everything here. Only then did Bailey Hongzhuang realize that there was actually a chef here, in order to prepare meals for everyone. Not only that, these meals were made from the flesh of demonic beasts, which was very beneficial for them. Chapter 48:16. Looking at Xiren's expression of, you guys are really wastrels, you guys are really willful, Di Xiaofeng and the others felt it was funny. With your daily treatment, even if you don't cultivate, just eating more will help your cultivation. Shengguan Yingying couldn't help but sigh. These monsters were all very powerful. Their flesh and blood contained origin energy. Through eating every day they could increase their strength and improve their own flesh and blood to a certain extent. Although that's the case, according to my estimation, no one would eat so much every day, right? Mo Yunjue said slowly. Hearing this, Xiren nodded. You're right. That's really a rice bucket. Ao Lingxiao was eating quietly at the side. After experiencing what had just happened, his mood was obviously not good. Although this matter had eased a bit, he was very clear that in everyone's eyes, he was still that heinous guy who killed his parents. If he couldn't clear his name, then he wouldn't be able to raise his head in this life. Noticing Ao Lingxiao's mood, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other with a trace of helplessness in their eyes. This kind of thing could only be resolved by Ao Lingxiao himself. Their consolation was useless. However, according to their understanding of Ao Lingxiao, he would definitely not be defeated by this kind of thing. By the way, do you guys plan to go to the deck later? Bailey Hongzhuang didn't forget the reason why Ao Lingxiao and the others met Ao Zhengquang today. That's right. Now that our injuries have healed, we plan to go up and challenge again. Shengguan Yingying nodded. Last time, because she couldn't hold on, she had been depressed in her heart. Therefore, now that her injuries had healed, she wanted to go back to the deck immediately. Her thinking was very simple. Her foundation was indeed not as good as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, but didn't everyone go through the same thing? The first time wasn't enough, then the second time. The second time wasn't enough, then the third time. As long as she didn't give up, she would be able to catch up with everyone sooner or later. The most important thing was that she couldn't give up. Seeing the strong fighting spirit in Shangguan Yingying's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips raised into a faint smile. Then we'll go up together later. The current Yingying was no longer as delicate as before. Obviously she was now more charming. Then I have to eat more. Staying on the deck, it's inconvenient to even eat. Xiren revealed a helpless expression. The wind on the deck made them unable to stand stably. Even if they took out food, they simply didn't know where it would be gone. Fortunately, with their current strength, even if they didn't eat for a period of time, there wouldn't be any problems. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to stay on the deck for a long time. Because they had not eaten for a long time, Di Beichen and the others' appetite was also very astonishing. Fortunately, there were no others, otherwise they would have been called rices. After eating, Li Feng, Ants Feng, and Di Xiaofeng didn't go with them. In his opinion, this kind of masochistic cultivation method wasn't suitable for him. Most importantly, it would affect his image too much. Chapter 48:17. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest returned to the deck, they unexpectedly saw a familiar figure. Di Zhirais? Di Beichen and the rest looked at Di Zhirais in astonishment. They had not expected him to return. In fact, Di Zhirais had stayed on the deck for a long time. However, they did not pay much attention to him. Although they were on the same side as Di Zhirais, due to Di Zhirais looking down on Bailey Hongzhuang, they did not have a good impression of Di Zhirais. Hence, they did not have much contact with him. Di Zhirais noticed that after Di Beichen and the rest appeared, he only nodded and closed his eyes, not saying anything else. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. It seemed that Di Xiaofeng was right. Although Di Zhirais' personality was not good, he was not weak. At the very least, this kind of suffering was not something an ordinary person could endure. They came from the lower realm and did not have as many cultivation methods as the upper realm. Hence, many of the methods they used were struggling on the line between life and death. On the contrary, the upper realm's aristocratic family members had many methods to improve themselves. Hence, very few people were willing to try this method. Di Zhirais was willing to do this. At the very least, it proved that he was a person with perseverance. In their line of sight, Qin Feng was still the same as when they left. He was like an old monk in meditation, not showing any signs of moving. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest did not delay any longer. They immediately sat down and started cultivating. As soon as they came up, Shangguan Yingying felt the terrifying wind blade. The fierce wind blew past her, causing her to feel a wave of pain. After noticing Shangguan Yingying's expression, Xiren could not help but ask, "Yingying, can you do it?" Shangguan Yingying nodded and said with a serious gaze, "I can do it. I feel that compared to before, my endurance seems to be stronger now." Hearing this, Xiren's eyes flashed with a trace of a smile. "That's good." A faint smell of blood lingered on the deck. Although everyone's bodies were gradually strengthening under this tempering, injuries were still unavoidable. Their clothes were still dyed bright red, gradually turning dark red. No one made a sound, silently enduring everything. Time flew by quickly in this process. In the blink of an eye, there were only 7 days left until 3 months had passed. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who were on the deck could clearly feel that the speed of the flying magic tool had slowed down recently. It was obvious that they were close to the immortal cloud mystic realm and were searching for the entrance. Suddenly, Qin Feng, who had his eyes closed, opened them and stood up. His face was still cold as he walked down the deck without looking sideways. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also exited their cultivation state. Di Beichen looked at the surroundings and said, "I'm afraid we are about to reach the immortal cloud secret realm. I think we should return as well." "That's right. Before we enter the immortal cloud secret realm, we have to adjust our condition. We can't enter with injuries all over our bodies. This will affect our performance." Xiren nodded. "Then let's go back." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. In the past 2 months, she could clearly feel the increase in her physical strength. At the beginning, the power of the wind blade was still unbearable for her. However, these wind blades could no longer affect her too much. Chapter 48:18. Dizhirais looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. His lips moved, but he did not say anything in the end. After experiencing the previous conflict, the relationship between them was really not good. Just as everyone was about to leave, Bailey Hongzhuang took out a bottle of healing medicine and handed it to Di Beichen. Seeing this, Di Beichen looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang and immediately understood what she meant. Dizhirais. Hearing this voice, Dizhirais stopped in his tracks and looked at Di Beichen. What's the matter? This is for you. Di Beichen threw the healing medicine to Dizhirais. Dizhirais caught it and looked at the porcelain bottle in his hand. His eyes were filled with doubt. What is this? This is the healing medicine that Hongzhuang concocted. It is very effective for external injuries and the recovery speed is very fast. Di Beichen explained. Although medicinal pills also had a healing effect, the effect of Bailey Hongzhuang's healing medicine was unexpectedly good. Even medicinal pills couldn't compare to it. It was because of this that they usually used this healing medicine when they were injured. Although their injuries were not light, they were not worried at all. Before entering the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm, they would be able to recover quickly. Dizhirais looked at the white porcelain bottle in his hand and was slightly stunned. His expression was a little stiff, but he finally opened his mouth and said, "Thank you." "No need, we are all teammates," Di Beichen said. Although he did not have a good impression of Dizhirais, they were all members of the Di family. Generally speaking, they were all teammates. Dizhirais' gaze moved between Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang for a moment. Finally, he fixed his gaze on Bailey Hongzhuang. "I'm very sorry for what happened in the past." As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. She really didn't expect that a person like Dizhi would apologize to her. Clearly, Dizhirais was not used to apologizing. After he finished speaking, he quickly left. Looking at his departing figure, Xiren couldn't help but say, "Looks like this Dizhirais has finally figured out the situation. I thought he wouldn't make a mistake." Although he is quite arrogant, he still cares about the Di family. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with understanding. In the past, she had always felt that Di Beichen was targeting her and Di Beichen. The most important reason was that Dizhirais had appeared and taken away his position. However, after this period of interaction, she suddenly understood a little. To Dizhirais, what he cared about the most was his family. His previous contempt towards her was not because of her, but because he felt that she had affected the reputation of the Di family. Now that so many things had happened, he understood everything. "Let him be," Di Beichen said calmly. He didn't care what kind of personality Dizhirais had. The most important thing was that Dizhirais had not come looking for trouble recently. If this guy still dared to say anything bad about Hongzhuang, he would not hold back even if he was a member of the Di family. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest returned to their lodgings and began to recuperate in seclusion. Before entering the Immortal Cloud Secret Territory, they had to quickly adjust their condition. Otherwise they might fall behind the others. When Di Xiaofeng saw that Di Beichen and the rest had finally returned, he heaved a sigh of relief. Now they just had to wait to enter the Immortal Cloud Secret Territory. Chapter 48:19. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly walked out of the house when she sensed that the flying device had stopped. Indeed, she realized that everyone had already come out of the house and gathered together. "We have found the entrance to the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm. Everyone can enter the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm soon." A steady and loud voice was clearly heard by everyone present. This person was the person in charge of the team. "Before we enter, I have something to remind all of you. There are directional markings on your identity tokens. The Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm is a place where you can change directions at any time. Therefore, after you enter, you may not be able to differentiate between north, south, east, and west. The direction of the exit will always be marked on your identity tokens. You will only be in the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm for 1 year. Once the time is up, you must come out. Otherwise, you will have to wait for 10 years. No one knows what will happen in the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm within 10 years. Therefore, do not try in vain. At least, no one has ever come out after 10 years. After you enter, all of you will be randomly teleported to any place. Be careful. After 1 year, we will pick you up at the exit. If you miss the time, we will not wait for you anymore. If there are no other questions, you may enter now." None of the people present had any objections. They already knew about this when they left their clans. Instantly, everyone walked up to the deck. In the clouds, a huge door slowly appeared. It was like the door to the immortal realm. "Wife, be careful after you enter." Di Baichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang worriedly. It was a pity that the immortal cloud mystic realm was randomly teleported. If only they could travel together, that would be great. Don't worry. With White Dragon, White Lion and Xiaohei by my side, I will be fine. Bailey Hongzhuang said. You, on the other hand, must be more careful. White Dragon's cultivation level was needless to say. White Lion's cultivation level was also high enough. With them by her side, there was no need to worry at all. If not for the fact that everyone here could see clearly, she really wanted to let Di Baichen enter the Chaos Ring. That way they would appear at the same place. I will be fine too. Di Baichen gave Bailey Hongzhuang a reassuring look. After you enter, try to gather with the family disciples as soon as possible. This is the safest way. I will. In the next moment, under the instructions of the team leader, one by one, the cultivators leaped into the huge door. As soon as she arrived at the gate, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a strong suction force, and then her whole body was merged into the light. When Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes again, she found herself standing in a misty world. As far as the eye could see, there was a vast expanse of whiteness all around. It was impossible to see the situation in the distance. Master, why is there so much fog here? The immortal cloud, white, white dragon, on the other hand, the white dragon, white, continued. In the words of the white dragon, she would rather stay in the chaos ring and cultivate in seclusion than participate in such a trial. She wouldn't come out unless there was something urgent. Bailey Hongzhuang did not insist. With the white dragon's strength, this kind of trial was indeed meaningless to her. Chapter 48:20. I'm not sure. Perhaps this is the environment of the immortal cloud secret realm? Bailey Hongzhuang said uncertainly. However, the vital energy in this fog is very dense. If we stay here, our cultivation speed will be very fast. Master, I've heard that there are many spiritual herbs in the immortal cloud secret realm. This kind of environment should be very suitable for spiritual herbs to grow, right? Baisher's voice rang out. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She nodded and said, That's right. This kind of environment is the most suitable for spiritual herbs to grow. Could it be that our luck is so good that we've directly arrived at a place where spiritual herbs grow? Xiaohei's eyes sparkled. If that was really the case, then their luck was just too good. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. That's not entirely impossible. However, if that's really the case, then our luck is just too good. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the identity token in her hand. Indeed, she noticed that there was a direction marked on the identity token. Clearly, that direction was where the exit was. Since that's the exit, we should go in the opposite direction. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a thoughtful light. A year's time is still early. We can go deeper. No one knew how big the immortal cloud secret realm was. However, she believed that everyone would think of ways to go deeper. Only then would they be able to obtain more resources. After walking for a while, they would probably meet other cultivators, so she was not in a hurry. Let's take a look around. If there are any spiritual herbs nearby, that would be great. Xiaohei and Baisher nodded in agreement. As an alchemist, Bailey Hongzhuang's need for spiritual herbs was not small. If they could find some spiritual herbs here, it would undoubtedly be great. The woman and the two beasts began to walk deeper. However, after walking for a while, they did not find any spiritual herbs. Most importantly, this area was extraordinarily big. So foggy. Fortunately, there are directions. Otherwise, it would be a complete maze. There's no way to tell. Xiaohei was speechless. This situation was a little too strange. Since they've given us a year's time, we know that the area here must be very large. Don't worry, let's take our time. White Lion appeared to be much calmer. In any case, he had already mentally prepared himself. For the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang had been moving in the same direction, but she didn't meet anyone else along the way. She did not stay on the road for too long. On the contrary, she walked very quickly. If she wanted to compete for resources, she naturally had to race against time. Otherwise, once she fell behind others, she was afraid that there would be nothing left. Master, is the fog gradually fading? Xiaohei looked at its surroundings. Although this feeling was not obvious, after walking for a while, it felt that the fog was gradually thinning, and its range of vision was much wider than before. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. It has indeed become fainter. It seems that not all of the immortal cloud secret realm is like this. We're finally going to walk out of this fog. It's so foggy all day, it's really uncomfortable. White Lion sighed exasperatedly. With such a range of vision, if one did not use their spiritual awareness to observe their surroundings, it would be very difficult for them to notice even if someone were to sneak up on them. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.